Okay, so today we are going to learn chapter Chavtes or 29. So, and when you look at it, probably you'll recognize it. So, so if you're following in the text, that's what we're doing, chapter 29, and you will recognize this from the putting away of the Torah, and also from the Friday night davening. It's quite a popular chapter of Tehillim. So just to talk a little bit about Tehillim, right now, Tehillim is obviously very closely related to David HaMelech, and David HaMelech's birthday and Yortzeit is on Shavuot. So first I was thinking about maybe today we shouldn't be learning Tehillim, maybe we should be learning about Shavuos. And then I said, actually, if we learn Tehillim, we are learning about Shavuos. So we're learning Tehillim as planned. Now, for anybody who's been in Yerushalayim on Shavuos, so you know that one of the big customs of Yerushalayim is that as it begins to get, or still while it's dark, as it's beginning to become towards morning, people leave their houses and they start walking towards the Kosel, so that they can daven Shachris all together at the Kosel. And people who have been there speak about it for many years after, the hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of people who walk to the Kosel. And this year I was reading about a different custom that I never knew about, but also apparently hundreds and hundreds of people also walk at the same time, but not to the Kosel. They walk to Keret David, to Har Zion, where David HaMelech is assumed to be buried. And the custom is to say the whole book of Tehillim at his gravesite on Shavuot. It's a well-known saying. It says that Moshe Rabbeinu gave us the 5 books of Torah on Shavuot, and David HaMelech gave us the 5 books of Tehillim on Shavuot. So as you know, Tehillim is divided into five books, and just as we got the Torah and the 5 books of Moshe, as we refer to them, so we got Tehillim and the 5 books of Tehillim also on Shavuos. Okay, so even though we think we only got it much later from David, Shavuos is a holiday that we celebrate Tehillim as well as Torah. So every Yontif, actually it says that every day has a specific chapter of Tehillim that's connected with it. So some of them you know already, because like you know that Mizmor Shir Chanukas Habayis is a Hanukkah chapter, and you know that Mizmor like the David Hashem Oiri is a Rosh Hashanah Erev or Elul chapter. So probably what you may know or didn't know, that chapter Chavtes, the 29th chapter of Tehillim, is the chapter that is connected with Shavuos, and people who have this custom to say the right chapter of the day on that day say chapter 29 as part of their Tehillim routine on Shavuos. So that's the decision to learn this particular chapter today. So let's look at this kapitel. Just reading it, you get the feeling right away of this being a very happy kapitel of Tehillim. So I was trying to wonder if it's because our choir sings it in a happy tune, and so we've adopted a happy tune. And then today somebody asked me earlier today, what Tehillim are you learning today? And I said 29, and she said, oh, that's the happy one. The happy one. It is we're learning chapter 29, Chavtes or 29. So just in general, as you look at it, you will see that it has a happy feel as you learn it. And what's interesting about this chapter of Tehillim is that it can be learnt and explained in lots of different levels. Speaking about it, if you look at the various commentaries, as we will, the different commentaries say that this chapter of Tehillim is talking about different completely different things. Okay, so one of the Mephoshim says that this whole chapter of Tehillim is about the glory of Hashem at the time of the splitting of the sea. Another opinion is that this whole chapter is talking about the glory of Hashem at the time that he gave us the Torah. And another opinion says that this chapter of Tehillim is talking about the greatness of Hashem that will be evident in the world when Mashiach comes. So whenever I tell my classes at school, there's this opinion or that opinion, and they often like to say which one is right. And it's a very hard concept to say to someone, yes, I'm telling you two contradictory things, and they're both right, right? Torah, everything about Torah is right, even if we don't understand how the two things are, how the two things work. But with this chapter of Tehillim, what we will see that, yes, of course, they're all right, but it's easy for us to see how all the commentaries are right, how we can find parts of the greatness of Hashem in all the different explanations that I'll try to share with you today. So the Tehillim begins, Mizmor David. It is a song, it is a tune that is made up, composed by David. And what does he say? He says, Havu la Hashem b'nei Elim. Havu, come to Hashem, b'nei Elim. We have to figure out who these people are, the b'nei Elim. Havu la Hashem, covered va'ez. Come to Hashem with glory, with honor, and with strength. So commentaries right away tell us, don't translate the word havu as come, but rather as bring. Bring to Hashem. And what should we bring to Hashem? Tells us at the end, covered va'ez. We should bring to Hashem glory and strength. And how do we do that? Mainly by davening. So say the commentaries that how do we express our how great Hashem is? How do we how are we able to bring thanks to Hashem? Is through our davening, and actually part of our morning davening, we call the Pesukei de Zimra, the parts of the davening which are not us asking for anything. It's not us thanking Hashem for anything. It is simply expressing the greatness of Hashem, and that's one of the aspects of this chapter of Tehillim. This idea of bringing to Hashem praise, telling Hashem that we've noticed, okay, that we are seeing how great He is. Chazal also tell us that this particular capital of Tehillim has got Hashem's name in it 18 times, and you can count. I did, it works. So it got Hashem's name 18 times, and each time that it's written over here corresponds to one of the brachas in our, what we call the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, which began with 18 brachas. You know that one was Malshinim was added in afterwards. And also what we're not going to do today, but I'm just mentioning it on the side, is to show how each of the brachas corresponds to the psukim in this capital of Tehillim. So who are these B'nai Elim who are being called on to bring praise to Hashem? So the Even Ezra says, this is actually talking about the stars and the planets. It's not talking about humans, but that looking into the stars, looking into the planets, actually looking into the universe makes us realize the greatness of Hashem. The Targum doesn't agree with Even Ezra. He says these B'nai Elim is actually the angels. And so you know that the angels spend a good part of their existence praising Hashem, right? We actually quote the angels quite often in our davening. We say Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. That's a quote from the angels. We say Baruch Shem Kavod. That's a quote from the angels. So we have this idea that up in heaven there are the different kinds of angels, and I use the term angels like easily. There are different kinds of beings, holy beings, and they spend their time simply praising Hashem. Simply, again, is whatever. And then Chazal tell us that these B'nai Elim is actually talking about the Avos, our fathers, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were the ones who their whole lives were a praise of Hashem. The way they lived their lives, that was praising Hashem. And this is referring then to us as well, the children of the Avos, who what we're supposed to be doing with our lives is that we are continuously making what we call Kiddush Hashem, a praise to Hashem. So while we are davening, we should be praising Hashem, but in every action that we do, in every interaction that we do, we should also be praising Hashem. It should be evident that we realize the greatness of Hashem, and our behavior should be reflecting the greatness of Hashem at all times. So why would we call the Avos and us Elim? So Chazal give us two answers for that. They say in the word Elim, we see the word Ayil, which means ram. And just as a ram, the highest thing that could happen to a ram could be shechted and used as a sacrifice in the Beis HaMikdash. So a ram represents something that is totally, its whole life is totally about showing greatness or showing praise to Hashem. So that's that idea that we mentioned, that we should be showing greatness to Hashem. And another opinion is that instead of reading it as Elim, we should read it as Alamim, quiet ones, silent ones, or mute ones. And says that one of the ways of praising Hashem in our lives is not questioning when things don't make sense. Alamim, we should be silent. And Avraham Avinu, our father Avraham, he was the best at this. And when Hashem comes to him with the 10th and final test that he must shecht his son, it made absolutely no sense. Avraham had spent his whole life telling people that there's no such thing as child sacrifice, there's no such thing as avodah zarah, that our God is different to all other gods. And suddenly Hashem comes to him and says, sacrifice your son. And Avraham could have had every good excuse. He could have said, but, okay, Hashem, this doesn't make sense. How can you tell me that I must sacrifice my son? And even though I would do it for you, but it just doesn't make sense, right? And Avraham was quiet. And after the Akedah, Chazal tell us that Avraham said, just as I was quiet when you told me to do something that didn't make sense at all, and I was prepared to do it, even though it didn't make sense at all. So I ask of you, Hashem, that when the Yidden, my children in the future, when they sin, you, Hashem, should be silent also. You should, it doesn't make sense, and you should forgive them. So let's see how David HaMelech tells us how we should see the greatness of Hashem and how we should act. So the next pasuk is pretty much about how we should go about praising Hashem. He says, Havu Hashem kavod shemo. Bring to Hashem or give to Hashem the honor that befits his name. Hishtachavu Hashem, bow down to Hashem, Bahadras Kodesh, in his beautiful holy places. So here, from here, Chazal tell us this is the instruction to daven, and as I said before, that this is particularly the instruction to daven the Shemona Esrei, and the commentaries tell us that from here also we learn that praise of Hashem has to be verbal. It can't always just be in our heads. It can't always be in our hearts. I mean, it has to also be in our heads and hearts, but that we actually are obligated to say praise to Hashem. And how they get that from this pasuk that says, Hishtachavu Hashem, bow to Hashem, means in action, do something, right? You've got to, when you bow, it's not just about bending your knees, but it's about not just having something in your mind, but actually doing something, an action. The Hadrat Kodesh that we are speaking about here, by most opinions, means any place that we choose to make holy. And then, of course, places like shuls, batei medrash, places of learning. These are places where are set aside as places for of splendor to Hashem, so to speak. The commentaries also tell us, or the Gemara actually tells us, that Hadras Kodesh, also splendor is another word for awe, and says that when we face Hashem in davening, there should also be awe. We shouldn't come so relaxed to daven. That's one level, but we should be thinking about the greatness of Hashem and who we're talking to, and therefore come Bahadras Kodesh, in splendor, in awe of the holiness that we are facing. And therefore came the custom that people study before they daven, because even though you would think that davening should happen first, but people would stop and study, so that they would study particularly about the greatness of Hashem, and then they would be ready to daven, because then they would be Bahadras Kodesh, they would be feeling awe, splendor of the holiness that they're about to face. On a much simpler level, Chazal tell us that this instruction, Bahadras Kodesh, and when we daven to Hashem, it should be in splendor of holiness. A person should straighten out their clothes before they begin to daven. So ideally, a person should be dressed properly when they daven. Certain circumstances it doesn't happen, but at least they should make an effort that they fix up what they're wearing so that they look menschlich as they come to daven. And you probably have noticed that there is such a rule, a custom to put on a jacket, for men to put on a jacket before they daven, sometimes even a jacket and a hat. I remember when my brother was a little boy, somebody asked my father, why do you put on your jacket and hat before you bench? And before my father had a chance even to think about it, Shalom said, so that as soon as the meal is finished, you can go home and my father can go to sleep. So that is not really what it means here when it says in the pasuk Bahadras Kodesh, in beautiful splendor, getting dressed up properly to speak to Hashem. And so the capital continues. It says Kol Hashem al Hamayim, the voice of Hashem is on the water. El Hakavod Hirim, Hashem's voice could be heard, lifted loudly. Hashem al Mayim Rabim, Hashem is over the great waters. So whenever we're going to see in the next few lines that the Melech keeps on referring to Kol Hashem, the voice of Hashem, and then tells where we find it. This is our job, to be looking for Hashem in these various places. So here he's saying that the voice of Hashem, the evidence of Hashem, can be found on the water, the loud sound on Mayim Rabim, on great waters. So by most opinions, this is talking about Kriyas Yam Suf, the splitting of the sea, and speaking about the greatness of what happened in the world at the time of the splitting of the sea. The miracle, and the more we think about it and the more we learn about it, of water splitting and letting people walk through, unbelievable miracle, evident to everybody. And this is one of the times where it says that after the miracle, or at the time of and after the miracle, even little children were able to point and say, here's God, right? Hashem's godliness was absolutely evident for everyone to see. Rashi says a much simpler explanation for this. Rashi says, Kol Hashem al Hamayim is talking about rain. Says that if you want to see evidence of Hashem, look at rain. Okay, that's one of the places that you can learn the most and you can see the most about Hashem. So first of all, rain is an unbelievable miracle. And the thing of rain is that when it rains or it doesn't rain, we have to notice Hashem. Rain is the thing that happens in the world that makes us know that we're not in control. We are totally out of control, and Hashem's the boss. So we have two countries in the world that are quite near each other, Egypt and Israel, and the difference is how they get their rain. So in Egypt, they have a big river, and they've worked out a very fancy canal system, and the whole country is irrigated by water that comes from the Nile River. So when they're looking for their sustenance, they look down, they look to the Nile River. They think that all their sustenance comes because they were very clever. They had good engineers, they had a good plan, and so they can irrigate their country because of their cleverness. In Israel, the way they get rain is by davening. And I always heard about it until we were in Israel one year in December when it hadn't rained yet, and people were davening for rain. And for those of you who know me well, I don't like rain, even though it's a big miracle. But it was our second last day that we were there, and it started pouring, absolutely pouring. And I wasn't really happy about it. I was planning to go shopping in Geula, shop to shop, and now we were not going to be able to do that. Didn't know what we were going to do in this pouring rain. But one of the things that happened as the day went is I took notice that every single person appreciates the rain and realizes that it comes from Hashem. So it started with calling a friend of mine to ask her for a different idea of what we should do that day. And she answered the phone. I said, it's Rifki. She said, it's raining. I said, yes, Roz, I see it's raining. Okay, it's like, well, like, what should I do? So she had been living there for a few years already, and she gave me other ideas of what I should do. But she was so excited it was raining. And then the people who clean the hotel rooms came in and they said to us, good morning, it's raining. I said, yes, it's raining. Okay, we know it's raining. And down at the desk in the hotel, the man greeted us and he said, look, it's raining. And every place we went, everywhere we went, people were saying to each other in the street, it's raining, it's raining. And suddenly you realize the greatness, the miracle of rain. You can't do it. You can pray for it, you can ask for it, but rain only comes when Hashem decides that he's sending rain. And so rain, or the absence of rain, makes us very, very, very aware of Hashem. Kol Hashem al Hamayim. The voice of Hashem, the evidence of Hashem is on the water. And also add the commentaries that rain has both things in it, as we will see with quite a few of the other parts of this kapitel of Tehillim, that the very same rain can be Gishmei Bracha, it could be rain of blessing, or it could be rain of destruction. When it comes at the right time, it's blessing. When it comes at the wrong time, it's destruction. When there's enough, like when there's enough of it, it's blessing. When there's too much of it, it's destruction. And so this very same rain that we are davening for has both qualities, that of bracha and that of destruction. And so again, evident that this can only come from Hashem. Only Hashem could do that. So this is the evidence of Hashem on the water. Al hakavod hirim, says David HaMelech. What does this mean, that there is glory in the loud noise of the rain? So it's Chazal tell us that this is talking about thunder, and you can study about thunder and how it happens, and you can know all the science behind why thunder happens, but doesn't seem, humans haven't found a good reason for thunder and lightning. We can't collect the energy, it's not helping with our electricity. Like, what is the purpose of thunder and lightning? And the book of Songs of Creation, Perek Shira, explains that thunder and lightning is there just to make us aware of God. When we jump for a minute, when it thunders, we say, hey, God did that. And when we sit at home scared and say, what is that thunder and lightning? Only Hashem can make thunder and lightning, and for the sole purpose of making us aware of him. Going back to the opinion that this pasuk is talking about the giving of the Torah. So it says that when Hashem gave the Torah, his voice came down rumbling over the waters of the world, and everybody could hear this rumble, okay, as Hashem's voice came into the world. It's interesting, whoever talks about, like anyone who is survivors of the thing in Phuket in Thailand, the tsunami, they all speak about the rumble, that the sound that water makes, that when it's powerful, that is Kol Hashem. It's the voice of Hashem over Mayim Rabim, over big waters. And then continues David HaMelech, Pasuk Daled, Kol Hashem b'koach, Hashem's voice is evident in his strength. Kol Hashem b'hadar, Hashem's voice is evident in its majesty. So what does this mean? Kol Hashem b'koach, that Hashem's voice, Hashem is evident in his strength. And again, we have such an interesting concept. Hashem did not put all his strength into this world, because most of us can't contain all of Hashem's strength. So it doesn't say Kol Hashem b'koachai, that Hashem's voice is evident in his strength, but b'koach, in some strength. Hashem put into the world exactly as much godliness that there needs to be in the world. And what's interesting, even more interesting, say Chazal, that every single one of us needs a different measure of godliness. And Hashem only is capable of giving everybody the godliness that they individually need. So in this world, Hashem comes into this world with his strength, and he gives each of us our own dose. Only Hashem can do that, nobody else. One of the most difficult things as a teacher is what they call differentiated teaching, where you have a class in front of you and you have children with different strengths. And then we're supposed to be able in one lesson to teach the weak and the strong and the average and give everybody, and I can tell you as a teacher, that's probably the most difficult, if not impossible task, to have a lesson that every single person gets every single thing out of it. So we come up with all plans. I'll make a test that has enough questions for the weaker students and harder challenging questions for the stronger students. And we try all different plans, but imagine that Hashem is able to do that. He's able to come into the world and give us each what we need, not compromise because of what somebody else needs at all. Kol Hashem b'koyach. Hashem is evident in his koyach, in his strength. And then Kol Hashem b'hadar, and Hashem is evident in his splendor, in his beauty. Says David HaMelech, you want to know another place where you should look for godliness is in the beauty that's around us. Says that when we see a beautiful plant or a beautiful flower or a beautiful mountain or a scene or any kind of scenery, whatever it is, it has to awaken inside of us Hashem's splendor. We actually have the custom that when we see something amazingly beautiful, when we see nature that's great, we say, Marabu Ma'asecha Hashem. How great are your creations, Hashem? And we're supposed to be making ourselves aware of that all the time, pointing out nature, the beauty of the world around us. At all times is a way for us to see Hashem's splendor, to see Hashem's greatness. The commentaries also tell us that Hadar, beauty, actually refers to old age. So that when a person ages nicely, this is called Hadar. This is called beauty. And when we see somebody who has aged and they have still been blessed with good health and a good mind, that should say to us, look, there's a God in the world. Hadar, looking and seeing evidence of Hashem. It's interesting also a little bit of a deeper explanation in this. You know, Hashem shows himself to the world with many different faces, if we could call that. When Hashem does a miracle that we look at it and we see it's an obvious miracle, the splitting of the sea, and we just look at that and say, this is wow, okay, only God could do this, amazing. Hashem is showing us his face of a young man. And proof of this, for anybody who says these Aziyashir in their morning davening, you know that when they describe what happened at the splitting of the sea, we use the terminology, we say, Hashem ish milchama. Hashem is a man, okay, who does this kind of war. In other words, this miracle is a wow miracle. It's obvious to all of us that Hashem is making miracles. But there are other miracles that come with Hashem's Zakain face, his natural behavior. And that's, for example, a baby being born. When a baby is born, this is probably a bigger miracle than the sea splitting. And why don't we say wow? Because it all just seems so natural, seems normal. That's what's supposed to happen. That's what's supposed to be. And that's when Hashem is in his Zakain mood or Zakain face. So all day long, we have these things going on around us. We have evidence of Hashem b'koyach, when he's strong, when he's young, when he's enthusiastic. Those are the midos of a young person. And we have Kol Hashem, we have the evidence of Hashem b'hadar, when he is in his Zakain mood, which is the mood that comes with experience, maturity, wisdom, etc. And we just have to look around in our everyday life and we will see both things. Continuing to Pasuk Hey, Kol Hashem Shaver Razim, the voice of Hashem is obvious as it breaks nations. Vayeshaver Hashem es arzei halevanon. Hashem breaks the cedars of Lebanon. So at the end of time, and I'm actually going to read the next pasuk as well. Vayarkidem kama egel, he makes them dance like little calves. Levanon v'Shirion, from Lebanon and Shirion kama vener amim, like a young wild ox. So these few psukim is discussing how, particularly at the end of time of Mashiach, Hashem will break down all those nations who gave us a hard time during the exile, and they who thought they were so great, and us who thought that they were so great, will see that if Hashem wants, and when Hashem wants, he can break them down, he will break them down, and they'll be shaking. They'll be shaking in fear. How do we know that this is really true? Because it says that at the time of Matan Torah, when Hashem gave us the Torah, already all the other nations were shaking and fearful and wondering what was happening and what's going on, as we'll see alluded to in a few psukim time. So pasuk zayin, Kol Hashem chotzev lahavos. Hashem's voice, Hashem's greatness is obvious in fire, in flames, lahavos eish, in flames of fire. This is another way of seeing greatness of Hashem, is seeing fire. So commentaries say, what does that mean? Simple understanding of it is that when we look at something like the sun or the stars, which are these great big balls of fire that hang in the air, again, it's evident that Hashem is great, that Hashem is doing unbelievable things, and they are in exactly the right place. The sun is far enough that it doesn't burn us, and near enough that it keeps us warm. This is Hashem's creation of fire that's incredible. And the power of fire, again, like we said about the rain, it has the double thing in it, that fire can be something that is unbelievably great, that we can see, that we practically use to keep ourselves warm, to cook our food, to make things, and fire can be the biggest destructive force. It can destroy everything, and we can look at both the greatness of fire and the fear, how scared we are of fire, and see both of those things, and see the greatness of Hashem in that. Also, we are told that this is alluding to Matan Torah. When Hashem gave us the Torah, it says that as he uttered the words of the 10 Commandments, fiery letters came out, went over the world, and they engraved themselves into the stone of the Luchos. That is according to the Ma'am Lois. Kol Hashem Yachil Midbar, the voice of Hashem frightens those in the desert. Yachil Hashem Midbar Kadesh, and Hashem makes tremble the people of the desert of Kadesh. So this seems to be talking completely about Matan Torah, that Hashem made the whole world tremble. And it says, the Medrash tells us that at the time of Matan Torah, there was this big noise and shaking in the world, and the Goyim got really scared, and they gathered around Bilam, who was their prophet at the time, and they asked him, is the world coming to an end? Is there going to be another flood? Like, what's happening now? And Bilam said, no, that's not what's happening. Hashem is actually giving the Jewish people the Torah now. And their reaction to that was, wow. And the very last pasuk of this chapter is what the Goyim responded to that. They said, Hashem Hashem's giving his nation strength. Hashem Yevarech et Amo v'Shalom. May Hashem bless his people in peace. But the Goyim saw evidence of God at Matan Torah, not only the Jews, who obviously saw evidence of Hashem at Matan Torah. It says, Kol Hashem Yechalel Ayalot, the voice of Hashem is evident in the trembling of the Ayalot, which we'll explain. Vayechashav Aros, and he clears out forests of a Heichalai, and in his Heichal, in his Shul or Beis HaMikdash, Kula Amar Kavod, everybody is saying glory or wow. So So what is actually happening? So here alluding to the time when Mashiach comes, where everyone in the world will be like, what is going on? What is happening? And everybody will be trembling. Everyone will be scared. And then they will see that in Yerushalayim, there is a building where everybody comes, and Hashem is looking after his people. And the world has reached this place of perfection that everyone's been speaking about for all these years. And what will be their reaction to this? They will say, kavod, honor, glory, or simply, wow, look what's going to be in this world, or look what's actually happened. The Gemara says that this is already talking about every night when Hashem enters Gan Eden, and the Gemara tells a story of Rav Chia and Rav Yossi, who went together on a journey, and they were traveling from Usha to Lud. And at nightfall, they couldn't travel anymore, it's too dangerous. So they sat down under a tree and they thought they'll learn until the sun comes up again. And at midnight, they heard a voice saying, wake up, stand up. The Holy One has entered Gan Eden. And they heard, as whatever it means, they heard that Hashem entered Gan Eden, and all the tzaddikim rejoiced together with Hashem, and they heard the chorus of all the people in Gan Eden saying kavod, which is glory, wow, look how great Hashem is, look what Hashem can achieve, or does achieve. Hashem la mabul yashav, Hashem sits on the waters of the flood. Vayeshev Hashem melech ha'olam, and Hashem will sit there forever. So again, Chazal tell us that before the flood, many people didn't believe in Hashem at all. And after the flood, they said, hey, there must be a God in the world, right? It's obvious that Hashem runs the world. So Hashem became much more known, much more relevant in the world as a result of the flood. And say Chazal that before Mashiach comes, there will be those who are saying Mashiach's coming, but the majority of people just plodding on their lives and not thinking so much about Mashiach. Once Mashiach comes, it will be so obvious that there's a God in the world. It will be so obvious that there is Hashem. We won't have to look anywhere, especially to see it. It will be obvious there for all of us, just to see and to appreciate. And the kapitel finishes with famous words, Hashem Ozlam Yitain, Hashem gives strength to his nation, Hashem Yevarech et Amo Bashalom, Hashem blesses his nation with peace. What is this Oz, the strength that Hashem gives to his people? So we have a different word for it. We like to call it Jewish chutzpah. Oz actually means strength, it means stubbornness, it means toughness, right? It's not just regular strength. And this is the strength that we need as we go through Galus. As we are traveling through exile, we need not just strength. We need Oz, we need a big strength. And we have this promise from David HaMelech, Hashem Oz la'ama yitain, that Hashem will give us the strength that we need to get through the Galus, to get to Mashiach time. And then Hashem will bless us. Hashem Yevarech et Amo Bashalom. Hashem will bless us with peace. As Rav Shimon ben Chalafta says, peace is the container for all blessings. And the Gemara concludes by saying that we all have to daven for peace at all times, because peace is the ultimate blessing. Without peace, we have nothing. I think it's like if you have all the vegetables for soup, but you haven't got a pot. And so this is why David HaMelech concludes with this. He says, you evidence of Hashem all over, having, whether it's getting the Torah, whether it's seeing the sea split, whether it's having the strength and the ability to face the galus, and then, please God, having Mashiach. For all of that, we need to have shalom. We need to be blessed with peace, because that's what will hold it all together. I wish you all a good Shabbos, a good Yantov, a Kabbalah Torah, a Simcha, or a Pneumius.
Amen. And Mazel Tov for your wonderful Simcha.
Thank you. You talk about my son.
Thank you.